All right, well, welcome to Eureka Math Squared. This is grade 6, module 3, lesson 10. And yeah, we're here, folks. It's all about the four quadrants of the coordinate plane. Great stuff. All right, so what I did with the kids today, this is, we're hanging out on page 121, by the way, is just loading this plane with information. All right, so first and foremost, you notice that we have number lines here that just are not complete at all. So what we're going to do here is put in all the negative fun, right? So in my x, right, my x axis here is moving to the right from the origin, but we need to cruise that off to the left there and get those negatives in there, right? Make that a full number line. Why not? We're going right of the origin and left of the origin. And same thing here with this. This is a terrible line, so sorry. Right, there's my y-axis, right? So I'm going to put those little negatives. So that's -1 and a -2 and a -3 and a -4, -5 and -6. All right, so now that we have them all in there, all of those values in there, let's talk about the quadrants. There are 4 of them. Now, quadrant 1 is hanging out over here. So I always put a, let's see, a nice little Roman numeral, Roman numeral 1, right? Over here is quadrant number 2, right? Quadrant number 3 is hanging out over here, and over here is quadrant number 4. Notice the Roman numerals, and this is the specific order. You can't go the other way, folks. This is 2, and it's always 2 hanging out over here, and this is always 3, no matter what. And this guy over here, Roman numeral 4, right? A 1 before a 5 gives me 4. And that's where that comes from, right? If I had a quadrant 5, which I don't, that would be 5. And this would be 6, 1 after 5. But that's a little bit of a side note. Okay, it really has nothing to do with what we're doing here, but I just thought I'd add that fun information. Okay, so let's take a look at this point that's already there for us. What we have here, or what we need here, is what is called an ordered pair. Okay, so an ordered pair, that's what this thing is. It's an ordered pair because it has 2 numbers. Some people like to call it a coordinate. Coordinate, which is fine. You can call it either thing. It doesn't matter. Call it an ordered pair, call it a coordinate. No big deal. But all ordered pairs have similar characteristics, right? They have an x value and they have a y value. Some people call it the x coordinate. Some people call it the y coordinate. Some people call it the x value. You can have an x value or an x coordinate. Okay. No big deal. Or you can have a y value, right? Or a y coordinate. Okay. Your choice, doesn't matter. Okay. So you have an x and a y. Now the x was what I like to call the left-right number, the left-right number. And the y value I like to call the up-down number. Okay. So every time you see an x, you're going to go to the left or the right of the origin. Now, I mentioned the origin a couple of times. This is the origin, right smack in the middle. That is the origin, my 0, 0 origin. It has its own name. It's the only point with its own name that I know of anyway. Okay, because the x value is a 0, which means I'm not moving left or right. And my y value is also 0, which means I'm not going up and I'm not going down. I'm starting here and I'm staying here. That's where I am. Okay, but all the other coordinates will be traveling. Okay, like this guy here that someone put here. So, but we always deal with the x value first. So this guy is always the first, and this guy's a little first, and this guy's always second. So I'm always dealing with the left right before I deal with the up down. Okay, so from the origin, how do I get over here? Well, I have to go left to right first. Well, it looks like I'm going to the right. I'm going to go to the right, 1. Okay, so I'm going to head to the right. So I'm going to write it over here. Right, 1. And then I'm going to go up, right, 4. Up, 4. Okay, notice I'm going to the right. Well, if I'm going to the right, that's a positive 1. Okay, positive 1. And if I'm then going up, that's also a positive 4. Okay, so this is read as ordered pair 1, 4. All right. Now, let's say I had a point hanging out over here. This guy. What is its ordered pair? Well, first and foremost, I'm heading to the left of origin, right? I always start at the origin, but I'm heading to the left, which means I'm heading into negative land. How far? Well, 5. So I'm going to go left 5, right? And then up 2. Okay, well, if I'm going left 5, that's a negative, right? And if I'm going up, then that's a positive. That's us, this guy over here. So ordered pair, -5, comma 2. Now you'll notice that any point that I put hang out over here will always be a left and then an up. Well, if that's true, right, what's going to happen is my x value will always be a negative and my y value will always be a positive. And I like to write those in on my graphs before on my planes before I start dealing with ordered pairs. Over here will always be a positive x and always be a positive y because I'm always going to go to the right and then I'm always going to go up. Here, I'm always going to go left and then I'm going to go up every single time, right? Now, hanging out over here in quadrant 3, it has its own little behavior. Let's say I want this point right over here, okay? Well, in this case, I'm always going to be going left of the origin, right? Always going to go left, and then I'm going to go down every single time. In this case, I'm going to go left 3 and then down 2. Well, for this particular ordered pair, if I'm going left, I'm always going to have a negative, so it's -3. And then I'm going to go down every single time, so my y value is always going to be negative as well. Okay, which is why quadrant 3, I always like to put a little negative, comma negative, because everything in quadrant 3 will always be an x value negative and a y value negative. You will always go left and then you will go down. Okay, anything left will be negative, anything down will be negative as well. Okay, and then finally we have quadrant 4. Now, if this guy, quadrant 1, is a positive, comma positive, right? And the next one, quadrant 2, is always a negative, comma positive, and quadrant 3 is always a negative, comma negative. And guess what? Quadrant 4 is going to be, right? You guessed it, it's going to be a positive, comma negative every time because I'm always going to go right and then I'm going to go down. And a right is always a positive and a down is always a negative. So if I was looking for something, let's say this guy over here, right? And I was looking for this ordered pair, I would head to the right, 4, right? So I'm going to go right, 4, which is going to be then a -4 because I'm right of the origin. Oh, excuse me, +4, right? Because I'm right of the origin. And then I'm going to go down, right, 2, down 2, right, which is always a negative, right? So -2. There you go. And you can check things, right? Because if you always know this is a positive, comma negative, check it out. I have a 4, comma -2. So even if I made a little mistake, I'd catch it. I'd say, wait a minute, quadrant 4 is always a positive, comma negative. Why would I put a negative, comma negative? If it's a negative, comma negative, it would have to be hanging out over here. Okay. So that's the deal. And then, well, they just wanted you to practice a little bit. So for this guy here, let's say point A, this guy out here, right? I'm going to go to the right 3 and then up 2. Notice it's quadrant 1. So I would always do this, positive, comma positive. Quadrant 2 is always a negative, comma positive. Quadrant 3 is always a negative, comma negative. Quadrant 4 is always a positive, comma negative, right? And so that's what they want in the chart. So location from the origin would be, for point A, right, point A, would be right 3 and up 2. So right 3, up 2. And since I'm headed to the right, that's a positive. And if I'm heading up, that's also a positive. And so quadrant number 1, because it's the positive, comma positive. And then let's do one more. This guy over here, point B. Well, in this case, I'm headed to the left 1, right? So left 1. And I already know that's going to be a negative. So that's -1. And then I'm going to go up 4. So up 4, and I know that's going to be a positive. Well, if I'm in negative and comma positive land, that must be quadrant 2. Let's see if that matches. There it is. Negative comma positive, and it is in quadrant 2, and I'm feeling pretty good. All right, so that's the deal, folks, with the quadrants and how to locate some ordered pairs and how to write them and fun stuff like that. So hope you enjoyed that. And don't forget, math rules. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.